Hello and welcome to the Zizzo Effect podcast, where we will talk about all things gamified. And on our inaugural episode, we're going to start at the beginning. What is gamification? Where did it come from? How has gamification infiltrated our everyday lives? And how can it be used to revolutionize work? Get ready, it's game time. Welcome to the Zizzo Effect podcast. We are so excited to be here with you for episode 1. I am your host, Andrew J. Reimers, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Jimmy Shabbat. Welcome to the Zizzo Effect podcast, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. Welcome to the Zizzo Effect podcast yourself.
We're in the future, my man. This is 2024. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it. Yes, 2023 flew by so fast.
It did. It did. And, you know, I think a lot of our listeners and a lot of our new followers are probably going to be wondering, what qualifies us to be able to talk about gamification?
It's a good question. Why don't we start with some intros?
I think that's a good idea.
How about I go first?
Go for it.
Let me introduce my wonderful co-host, Andrew Reimers. Andrew, throughout his career, has worn many hats. From being a mail carrier to a guitar vocalist, theater actor, managing coffee houses and liquor stores, even being Buffalo's only Johnny Cash impersonator. Each role has taught him valuable lessons and great skills. And however, it's in his current role as Director of Customer Success at Zizzo Technologies that he's found his true calling. Andrew J. Reimers. What does the J stand for, by the way?
Well, devilishly handsome.
I don't think that starts with a J, but I'll take it.
Okay. No, thank you so much. It really is an honor to be here sitting with you. I love talking with you. You know, we've known each other a very long time. But I think it's important that we get our listeners to know a little bit about your background as well. So, I mean, gosh, where do I even begin? Jimmy is a dynamic, forward-thinking entrepreneur. Embarked on his career journey in the IT industry at the age of 19. Man, you knew me at 19, and I certainly was not running my own business. But he established his first business, transitioning into the accounts receivable sector, and he spearheaded the creation of a call center, scaling it to a robust team of 200 employees. I'm proud to say I was included amongst that number. His fervor for IT and innovative spirit were instrumental in the development of the software application Zizzo. Hence the name. But beyond his professional pursuits, he's a devoted family man, and he finds equal joy in nurturing an organization as he does in crafting a product. Jimmy, it's a pleasure to call you a boss. It's a pleasure to call you a friend. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. And I prefer colleague. We don't like the word boss around here, but thank you anyways.
Awesome. Well, you know, it's only fitting if we're going to do a podcast about gamification, what better place to start than playing a game? And not only are we going to be playing this game, but we want everyone at home to play along as well. So we are going to, and neither one of us have had any insight into this whatsoever. We have some wonderful producers working with us behind the scenes.
Yes, we do.
That are going to test our knowledge of old school video game music, from what I understand.
So we're going to call this segment Guess the Song, right? Is it a song or is it a theme song? Guess the theme song.
I like it.
Would probably be a better title for it. So we're going to have some fun transitioning here. So let's play Guess the Song. So this song is just going to be for us. So neither of us have heard the song. I have heard that it is going to be kind of like a softball here, an easy one for us to guess, but it'll be between the two of us. I don't know if we have a buzzer. The first person to guess the song is going to be the winner. For this one, it's just between you and I.
Okay.
So Emma, whenever you're ready. It's not even fair.
It's a draw.
It's a draw, yeah. It's Super Mario Brothers, obviously the original.
The original 1985.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
85. That's
going way back. I still remember the morning that I got my NES system. It wasn't in 1985. It was a little bit after. But that song brings back so many memories. And maybe as I get more comfortable here, maybe I can actually play that on guitar.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be fun if you can pull that one off. Yeah. So the next song we're gonna play. This is gonna be for our audience. We'll have a little contest here, right?
Yeah. Let's do a contest, and what we're gonna ask from you is don't cheat. Give us your first instinct, but follow us at Play Zizzo on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, all of that.
Yeah, we're gonna have this podcast wherever we publish our podcast. So.
And we're gonna post the song. We're gonna play a little bit of it here. And in the comments, if you guess the song correctly, you might just be in line for a prize yourself. You never know.
I think we're gonna be giving away a Zizzo hat. I don't know if you can see it here. We'll have to zoom in on that. We'll maybe get another shot on its own and put it up there. But beautifully crafted Zizzo hat. Everybody loves the quality of this hat. So you guess the song correctly, you'll be put in a drawing to win. Let's see if you can guess it. Oh, yeah.
I think I know it.
I know this one.
I'm embarrassed to admit I never beat this game.
Really?
Yeah.
This one was one of the first games that I remember playing that even when you do, there's still some hidden things. And that was really revolutionary for me in a video game, that you can go back and still uncover more hidden clues. So that's a great choice, Emma. I love that one.
No spoiling it. So
yeah, let's see what the people guess. Yeah.
Please follow us on social media and drop in the comments on the post of what you think the song is, and we'll choose a winner from there.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, let's get to why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy came to me a couple months back and said, "Great news. We're going to start a podcast and you're going to be the host." I said, "That is great news. What's it going to be about?" And you said gamification. And I think that is amazing because I'm familiar with gamification. You're familiar with gamification, but I know it's a newer term to a lot of people, and maybe an unfamiliar term to a lot of people that are listening right now. Can you give me a brief, maybe the Webster's Dictionary description and definition of what gamification is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a definition standpoint, simply put, it's the application of game mechanics to non-game tasks for the purpose of increasing user engagement.
Okay, that makes sense. But give me an example.
Well, there's plenty of examples. I mean, this is really, as you said it at the opening here, it's really infiltrated our lives. It's everywhere. So I'm going to take an easy example, quick one, is fitness, right? Fitness is a major one. If you look at Apple Watch, I don't have my Apple Watch on right now, but it's gamified fitness where people are closing rings, earning badges, competing with their friends and family, right? One of the primary examples that I love to use in a lot of conversations about gamification is the brand Peloton. It's a $4 billion brand, and it really just resurrected a product that really was relegated to a coat rack, right? I mean, people would buy a stationary bike and use it for maybe a month or so, and then it just would hang their clothes on it. And it just added gamification. I mean, real-time contests, badges, leaderboards. Nobody wants to be at the bottom, so they exercise harder and compete harder so they can be closer to the top. And the people around the top, they want to win. So fitness is a big one. Fitbit, Apple Watches, a lot of wearable devices are a lot about gamification, but even exercise places like Nike training clubs, they use gamification as well. But it goes beyond that, right? I mean, retail. Why don't you give me some examples of where you experience gamification in retail?
I don't know how much we're allowed to say brand like stores.
Yeah, you can say anything.
I can say anything. Let them stop us, right, Jimmy?
Exactly.
As a wise man once told me. Kohl's Cash. I'll tell you right now, I used to make fun of my mom for Kohl's Cash. Sorry, Mom. I know she'll definitely be listening to this. But I've been shopping there, especially, getting ready for the holidays last year. And the amount of bonus rewards I earned in Kohl's Cash that I was able to save up to be able to purchase was amazing. And it made me feel good. It was really an exciting experience. I hate to admit, it's showing my age.
No, and actually we'll go back even further, and I think this is something that they still do. I think less so. There was, I think, some sort of, I know there was a Netflix special about it, but the McDonald's Monopoly game. I don't know if you remember that. That one dates back into the early 80s as well.
Remember peeling off the pieces from the cups and the fries? That was so satisfying in itself.
And collecting you're trying to get Boardwalk and Park Place. for the big score. I think that was $1 million prize. But I mean, Starbucks, right? This is what, it's not just about engagement, but it's about creating loyalty, right? So people go and for those triple rewards or double reward points, they'll make sure that they go get their coffee and that they're scanning their Starbucks card to collect the points. And it's just more data for the companies. It's more loyalty. It keeps them coming back. Wherever you drink your coffee nowadays, they all have these loyalty points and these reward programs.
Exactly. I mean, there's a million like practical applications when it comes to gamification. And you kind of touched a little bit on how we interact with gamification on a daily basis, in our lives, whether we realize it or not. Why does it work?
I mean, it works for a host of reasons. It's engaging, right? It's competitive. I mean, there's an innate competitive nature to human behavior. People just like to win. They like to compete. They like to have fun. I mean, games have been around for millennia, right? Since the beginning of time. The Olympics were started back in the Roman days, the Greek Roman days, but even games are being gamified. I mean, look at the NFL. The NFL is a primary example of a sport that's been hugely successful, but not until fantasy sports and sports betting came around did it explode into something to the next stratosphere, through fantasy sports. So it's a game about a game where now we're engaged beyond just our own home team, where that's, when I was growing up, that's the only games we would watch is the home team, unless it's a playoff game, of course. But now we've got fantasy players that are involved in different games in sports betting. If you're placing bets on different games, now you have a vested interest in watching that. And so that's games within the game. So, I mean, there's a whole multitude of reasons from a psychological standpoint that I think in future episodes, we're going to really dive into the scientific component of the extrinsic motivation component.
Exactly. With every win in fantasy football comes an equally tough loss that you have to deal with. And I love the range of emotions that gamification causes. And I think you bringing up the NFL is a perfect example because you do want to challenge yourself. You want to be the best. You mentioned Peloton. You mentioned, things like Fitbit, Apple Watch, Nike training. There's exercise. You mentioned about how it's in restaurants. You mentioned all the coffee places, McDonald's, Monopoly, even things like loyalty cards. I remember early in the day where you get 10 hole punches in your card and you get a free sandwich, a form of gamification. And you bring up a great point with the NFL. And what I wanted to mention is I see it. I have a son, he's 9 years old, and I see the way gamification has been in his life since the beginning. Early childhood learning apps, there's Kahoot, IXL. I remember him going through these math problems that he was struggling with early on in school. And we were doing, during the lockdown, we were doing at-home learning. So, I'm not a dumb guy, but I'm also not a teacher. And we were able to find a program. And he was so motivated by these badges and stickers of different animals that he was getting and the rareness of some of them. And coming into things like streaks, like coming in and, getting the answer correct every single day, and you earn an additional bonus. Language apps is another way, again, with learning. Duolingo, workforce learning management systems, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, all amazing examples of where gamification is all around us. I mean, you can't even avoid it if you tried.
No, and it's a great point, and especially when you bring up your son. I also have two older children than yours. I mean, mine are teenagers, 13 and 16, but I remember them 2 years old on an iPad. I mean, nowadays these kids are just conditioned, and I don't know if it's in their DNA, but they're able to navigate an app, and a lot of it is through the gamified apps and those stickers and those rewards, not just the YouTube channels but the games that they play. But it's still, even in high school, their study apps are gamified. So it's trivia questions, and they're able to earn, different sort of helper coins, tokens, where double your score or go back and get the answer correct. So I see it even in in high school that they're being conditioned through gamification, because it's a very effective tool to help people retain knowledge and to help them, learn new things. So, and Duolingo, as you mentioned, is a great app for learning languages, and it's really differentiated itself through the application of gamification.
Yeah, definitely. So, that's where gamification is in the world. We're going to dive deeper in future episodes. But, I think it's important to let our audience know a little bit of the history going back because, when I started in the gamification business, I thought it was a newer concept. But maybe you can give us a little bit of insight. I know you've read a ton of books and you have a lot of knowledge regarding this. You are a gamification expert after all. When did it start? How did it start?
Yeah, I think, the first example of gamification in business actually goes back to 1896. A company, Sperry and Hutchinson Company, creates the first known loyalty program, rewarding its customers for purchases. But there's a book that I read and I always recommend people, Reality is Broken, by Jane McConigal. And I'll show the book right here for people to see it. And we'll make sure we reference this. But in the book, Jane references the story that, according to Herodotus, during a severe famine in Lydia, the king implemented a policy where the Lydians would play games every other day. And on the days that they played games, they actually wouldn't eat. And so what happens is it effectively cut their consumption of food in half, and it helped them survive the famine. So the strategy was used for 18 years. Can you imagine 18 years of eating on only alternative days? And again, they can deceive the mind and the body by playing games, right? And keeping them occupied by other things. So eventually, when it became clear that the situation was not improving, the Lydians devised a plan to split the kingdom in half, understanding that they're going to have to continue to keep cutting the consumption of food in half. One half stayed and the other one would go search of new lands. And that's what led to the founding of the Etruscan civilization in Italy. So, it goes back, 7 centuries before Christ. So, this dates back a long, long time. So, it's only when, we started applying these to non-game tasks here that it became called gamification. So
that's awesome. That's an incredible story. I can't imagine having to go through that. I can't imagine going every other hour without eating, but
yeah,
that's just me. But all right, so that's an amazing history and a cool place to start. But I know, there's plenty of examples, and you mentioned Sperry and Hutchinson in 1896. But let's fast forward even a little bit more in 20th century. Where did gamification really begin to take off there?
Yeah, well, in 2002, a gentleman by the name of Nick Pelling, he's a British computer programmer. He coins the term gamification, for applying game elements in non-game context. But there's, a ton of different examples that we just mentioned. We talked about even Monopoly, which was predated the coining of the term gamification. So the usage of gamification predated the term. Even, when I was first building out the original iteration of Zizzo, I had no idea what it was called. I just, was using fun ways to engage the staff and through contests, tournaments, and leaderboards. So there's just a multitude of examples of the use of gamification. And like you said, we're going to be diving deep into the different aspects of it and the psychology of it in future episodes.
That's a great transition because we've talked about gamification now in life, in all aspects of life, in our food, in our exercise, in our shopping, whatever
Education.
It might be, education. And there's one area of life that we all spend a lot of time with, and that's work.
Yes.
So, gamification in the workplace. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, I think I have.
Really?
It's a great company.
Well, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction into how it can be used, maybe some of the tools you can use, and really what gamification means to the future of work?
Yeah, and we talk about its effectiveness, right, in all other aspects of life, but with work, and you had said it, it's approximately a third of our life, right? There's 24 hours in a day. We sleep about 8 hours, we work 8 hours, and we live life the other 8 hours. Hopefully, we live it to its fullest. So about a third of life is at work, and work has changed dramatically over the course of the past several years. And, I think we can really relate a lot of that change to maybe the pandemic in 2020. But even prior to that, I had started to see glimpses of change in the workforce, primarily for frontline workers. And when I talk about frontline workers, this is early generation workers. So in this case here, it's Gen Z who dominates the frontline workers. And I started to notice that when they started penetrating the workforce, and especially in my organization, they were different. People used to complain about millennials, and I think millennials were they created the quiet quit, right? They would be at work and everybody talked about disengagement, but they wouldn't quit. They would just kind of sit back and just do the job to at the minimal, right? Not everybody, of course. I'm just painting a broad stroke here. But when Gen Z came in, they had a few other tools in their tool belts, including a lot of other options, right? So the gig economy really started taking effect. And we're talking about driving Uber, delivering DoorDash, Instacart, even online like Fiverr or Upwork, where you can go and start your own business, even the influencer kind of revolution where people can, create followers just by creating digital content. So they had a lot of other options. Rising wages, minimum wage was starting to become a thing of the past, where fast food chains were, to compete with other employers, were paying, 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour. And, we, as an agency, we would always pay like $4 or $5 above minimum wage, and give people an office job, a desk job that, and unlimited earning potentials with bonuses and commissions. But we were no longer competitive. So, you combine all of those and then add in there the pandemic, where now nobody's restricted. You can work from home. So, geographically, you're not restricted to where you live to get a job. So attrition rates started not just climbing, but skyrocketing. So there's a huge problem that's happening. How do you maintain and retain talent? How do you maintain a culture in a remote workforce, in a younger, disengaged workforce, in a competitive workplace and in work environment? And that's where, I came in with the gamification and said, this is going to revolutionize the future of work.
No, it's really incredible because you bring up throwing money at people to try to get them to stay, but has it really solved their attrition problems? No.
No, it actually it makes it worse, because what happens is now everybody else is doing it, and so your cost just continues to go up. But and again, we're going to talk about how to really put money to work effectively, rather than just giving it in compensation, but using it in your incentives budget. And that's a future episode that I'm really excited to get into that topic.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a wonderful place for us to conclude our first episode. Jimmy, it's been fun. I can't wait to continue doing this with you throughout 2024 and beyond. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been the Zizzo Effect. My name is Andrew J. Reimers. With me, Jimmy Shabbat. Be sure to tune into our next episode, where we'll be talking more about productivity, engagement, attrition,